I'm making this video. Hopefully, can help somebody. I found that people are posting my debts online. That way, they can sell them back and forth to each other. And so far, all the firms that have targeted me, um, they seem to have a lot of black people involved in their firms, or some Hebrew Israelite, and and some of them are integrated, but still they target people. I disgusted that everything that's happened to the African American community, you know, all the way from West Africa to the shores of the Eastern Seaboard, and they want to target people because of race or religion or support of Israel. And I'm not just blaming them because there's other people involved too, but I always see the common pattern here, connection to some kind of QAnon or racist extremist group, always. And I, I just encourage people, if you have debts and you're a victim of identity theft, do whatever you have to do, even filing a complaint against the judge with the Judicial Tenure Commission if they refuse to force these people to verify the original debt. They're supposed to. It's a federal statute. They're supposed to verify the original debt. And that means in its entirety. You shouldn't have to go to court with a motion to, every single charge should be verified, because it says right in the federal statutes and state statutes, the original debt has to be confirmed by the debt collector. That means in its entirety. But at least in Saginaw County, my experience, now 2 of these judges, they don't care. They don't care if you're on federal benefits. They don't care if you're disabled. They don't care. They should be removed from the bench. They target people. And one of the veterans who handed a debt to somebody when he knows I'm in poverty, he's the judge that sits for the veterans court. Don't move to Saginaw County. And I pray that federal investigators will come here. I pray. Because all the way from the city hall to the county building, it doesn't matter if somebody's waving a QAnon or a Trump flag. This city and this county, well, we'll say this county, or that correction, this city and several of the townships that border the city of Saginaw, they are filled with corruption. Sometimes you'll walk into townships and all you see is one race. Other times you walk in there, everybody goes to the same church or the same group of churches. And if you're not a part of that, you're not welcome. The township we live, I've applied to help with the election now for the past 2 elections. I never heard back. But yet they grab some white people who are part of a racist religious group. They grab them. So if this is happening to you, you keep getting debt sold and resold, sold and resold. It's like, several times a year. These companies don't do that. They buy a debt. The maximum you'll see somebody hold it is maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And they write it off with the losses. Yeah, sometimes they litigate if it's worth it. If people are litigating you over a debt that's $500 to $900, they're targeting you. Because the cost to do that, and another thing, you'll find some of the judges want to do everything video conferencing. It's your right to go to a courtroom. You don't have to do video conferencing where nobody verifies their identity, nobody even wears a bloody ID card, it's your right. Or go to the Judicial Tenure Commission. Or you go to the chief judge of the courthouse and you make a complaint. People are taking advantage of this COVID, everything that happened since COVID. COVID is done, people. Live with it. Yeah, it's going to be just like the flu. Live with it. We don't need to alter our culture so that people can protect corrupt structures. Corrupt social and business and government structures. And like I said, if you're having some of the same debts a couple of times a year sold and resold, you're being targeted. Because these companies don't do that. You know, I've went in debt before in the military when I was a contractor, and I had to pay it off. You know, it's always been just me. So sometimes, yeah, I get in over my head. There's nobody to bail me out. You know, and sometimes I get in over my head being I'm on my own. It happens. But it doesn't mean I don't know how to manage money, because I've had assets before accumulate through investment or savings, and I had to use them in a situation, and I've returned and done it again. And I've had those assets again, which is why people try to keep us imprisoned to Saginaw County, because they know if I leave here, myself and my children will get on our feet again, because I always do. So instead, we're kept here imprisoned in Saginaw County between a couple of different townships and cities to get bullied the heck out of by largely racist religious groups and QAnoners and some sex offenders. Now, you know, I can look past anything anybody has done if they're repentant, if they've made peace with the Lord, if they've confessed their sins, and if they try to make peace with whatever they've done, whether it's a business or a person, the victim, they've made restitution and made peace, or tried to, sincerely, because that's what I'm commanded to by Jesus. But the fact remains, there's many people out there who are not. They don't care. And some of those people have power. And in this county, they're protected. So that's my suggestion out there. If you keep on getting the same debt sold and resold more than, once a year, you're being targeted. And every single entry they make on your credit report, that's another thing that has to be cleaned up someday. And if you walk in there with a good job and they do a background check, especially for a clearance, a NACI all the way up to compartmentalized, top secret, or single scope, you're going to have a hard time getting your clearance adjudicated, because you're going to have tons of entries on there. And these people don't delete them, because people who go into debt collectors, generally, my experience, actually I have a family member who used to have a company that did that. They don't care. They don't have empathy. Even those who profess Christ, you'll find that there's a hypocrite in the closed door, behind the closed door. Because it's all about money. And you know what Jesus said about mammon. You can't serve God and mammon at the same time. So that's my suggestion. Go to your chief judge, if there's irregularities. And if you're being targeted, find some kind of law clerk, somewhere, usually at your law schools, especially the state ones, the public ones, and have somebody get a bankruptcy attorney to help you file. My case, the arrogant judge who I have told his court officers, I said, this is not a righteous judge. I said it right in the courtroom. I said the kind of judge that would allow what to happen, what just happened, he is not a righteous judge, and he is not a good man. And find somebody to help you file bankruptcy. I was going to, but it's expensive. They have some different kinds of waivers for pro se litigants, but per pro pair. But the problem is there's other things that you have to pay, and there's agents that have to be paid, and it's not something you walk into. Like you don't move to a different place when you don't have an income. Um, and in addition to that, it's possible with a really malicious and a judge that's a predator that he could manage your finances for up to 7 years. Meaning every check you write, you have to get permission from his office or her office. That's the potential just problem with bankruptcy. The right judge, who has a predatory personality, he's going to take advantage of that. And then you'll have even less money. And there's even the potential, my research, there's the potential if you have a predator judge, he'll take your passport. Yes. We're not as free as we think, people. I've been critical of the QAnon movement, but you know what? The more and more I see, it makes me sick to my stomach. I believe in the gospel before anything, but the direction I see our country going, especially in these fascist townships and these fascist cities, they're taking away more and more and more of our rights. And we just walk blindly into it. We were at the VA the other day, and there's a couple of older gentlemen that were in front of my daughter and I. She's with me a lot because, we've had 6 daycare in 8 years. And in the end, only 2 of them did I like. Because the other 4, in the end, I found predatory behavior. Teenagers walking around, teenager boys walking around without shirts on. Boys and girls being taken to the bathroom at the same time. And my daughter saying, I can't go to the bathroom in front of the boy. And the daycare worker saying, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so that's why we don't have daycare unless my daughter visits family. Well, they had 2 daycare, I guess, technically. One was in-house, one was in a business. That the people were good people. But my phone is ringing, so I better answer that. But if these kind of things are happening to you, that's the only advice I have for you is go to the chief judge, go to the tenure commission, and if you're being targeted and in specific debts once or twice, more than once a year, are being cycled to another debt collector, maybe the only thing you could do is file bankruptcy, but it has its own woes. And like I found in our investigating in Saginaw County, I see the same repeat debt collectors coming up again and again. I mean, sometimes they target people because of demographics, so they'll send out, credit card or bank loan notices or like electronics, credit line notices. They'll target people because demographics. But when you have specific debt collectors that are targeting people like Midland Credit Management, Midland Credit Accounts. There's a couple of Midlands that they got in there, trying to sound all wealthy and powerful. Then you got Crown. That's another one. And I wonder if they're connected to what used to be Crown Amusements. I had some problem with them in the past. I had a couple of friends from Romania who, we just wanted to hang out. And actually, one of them I kind of had a crush on. But, because we're all Catholic, and I thought, hey, we'd go to church, hang out, go to the bar. And, I had a big house, nothing bad intended, before anybody thinks anything. But come to find out that this company, they had their passports. They couldn't have their passports. They didn't have any local ID. Um, their visas obviously were on the passports. They didn't have anything. They didn't let them travel. They couldn't. The only thing they could do is exactly what everybody else did. Um, to me, that sends up a lot of flags. And then my friends, one of their friends, got pregnant with um, I don't even know. It's a single black guy from Flint. He didn't have any family, and he got her pregnant while she's on her visa, and they hid it. The company hid it. And yeah, but when I asked them like how many girls are hooking up with the carnies, and she's like, oh, about half. Sounds to me like human trafficking. So I wonder if they're connected to that company. It's disgusting. All the times when I was a kid, we used to go to their amusement parks. It's disgusting. And we talked about amongst ourselves where I grew up. A couple of neighbor girls tried to date the carnies, and one of them. Anyway, I'm not going to go into my personal life or people I knew, but more than one carny went across the line with teenage girls, more than one. And they're gone. Boom, after 2 weeks, they're gone. Nobody wears name tags. Nobody shows an ID. Nobody cares. But anyway, but so, if you're being targeted like this, that's the best thing that I can advise, But like I said, it has its own pitfalls. Bankruptcy does. And, you can settle, but the thing is, when you settle, they don't remove it from your report. Even if you pay it off in full, most will say, oh, yeah, we do a line item delete. No, they don't. Most will not do a line item delete. They don't care. They just want the money. They're going to write it off anyway, but it comes later, when the taxpayers give them a refund and we help their business with somebody else's debt that they wrote off. Instead of trying to work with the person, they took them to court. Or they ignored it and wrote it off, and the taxpayer pays for it. Personally, I don't think the taxpayer should be paying for business losses, especially regarding, credit issues. They should have worked with the debtee. Work with them. That way everybody walks away happy. But they want their money now. If not, they write it off. And then they get so much per dollar. But, what I've seen is they get these attorneys that are not with a firm, probably because they're in trouble, or because they are not good attorneys, and they contract with them for debts. That way the cost is low, but still that's not really the way the process is supposed to work. They use PO boxes. Sometimes they use fake names. So in the end, you as the debtee, you don't have any rights at all. Your rights are completely stripped from you through deception, lying, underhanded business practices. And then again, it may not even be your debt, because at least in some counties, the courts don't care. They won't check a driver's license. They won't check a social security number. They don't care. And when you ask to validate the original debt, they'll come up with, some roundabout kind of way. And if they're friends with the judge, he'll say, oh, okay, it's good enough for me. Because to some judges, I don't know their political persuasion. I don't really care. I know that more than one was appointed, at least in Saginaw County, was appointed by the governor that hid up the Flint water crisis. He hid it, put it underneath a deep carpet, and then put some dirt over it, and then put another carpet. He was appointed by him. So that says a lot. Like my grandma used to say, birds of a feather. But, it also makes you wonder, some of these judges, some of their past, some of the past legal work that they've done, isn't exactly about empowering people. That I've found through some of our investigations, some of the backgrounds for some of these they targeting people, taking away rights, taking away children, and now these are the people we're going to sit on a bench. But I know that's the best advice I can give to folks out there. This is a situation that could be very stressful, very volatile, especially if you have limited income, and the court doesn't care. They'll let debt collectors target you and ruin your family, ruin your children's future over a few $100s that may or may not even be yours because they refuse to verify anything. That's not the America that I served such a long time in uniform for. Not at all.